Good morning, student. This is the second video of chapter 14, the Indian nationalism. Here, some early political associations. First, the British Association, founded in 1851 in Bengal. The Bombay Association, 1852, which is founded by Dadabhai Naoroji. Third, East India Association, 1856, founded in London. And fourth is Madras Native Association, 1852. While fifth, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, 1870. And the last was the Madras Mahajan Sabha, 1884, founded. Now we will see the partition of Bengal. Applying the divide and rule policy, Bengal was divided by the British on October 16, 1905, into Hindu and Muslim areas. By doing this, British hoped to increase the tension between the Hindu and the Muslims. When this partition was done, Lord Curzon was the British Governor General at this time. The official release regions was given that the Bengal was too big to be administered, means it is not effectively administration done of Bengal due to the big or the vast area. Now the Congress split in two groups. These were the moderates and the extremists. By 1907, moderates nationalists had exhausted their historical role. Their failure too were numerous. They lacked faith in the common people because of they were thinking that the British government will give them freedom after the participation and loyalty in the First World War by the native Indians through the side of British government. The government of India, headed by Lord Minto as Viceroy and John Morley as the Secretary of the State, offered a bet of fresh reform in the Legislative Council. But the government was trying to suppress these movements which were against the government, which was going on in the country. The result was total split in the nationalist ranks. The Swadeshi Movement and the boycott movement. Who were the moderates? We will tell you next. Now, the Swadeshi and boycott movement. The division of Bengal gave a rise to the new method of struggle, Swadeshi and boycott. These movements were launched to end the partition. Swadeshi means one's own country's product or one's own country. It was aimed at making Indian goods popular so that Indian industries prosper and patriotic spirit is developed. The method of boycott focused on asking people to boycott British goods. The formal proclamation of the Swadeshi movement was made on 7 August 1905 in the meeting held at Calcutta Town Hall. Even moderates leaders like the Surendranath Banerjee told the country, urging the boycott of the Manchester cloth and Liverpool salt. On September 1, government announced the partition was to be effected on 16 October 1905. A serious difference were developing between moderate and the extremist over the goals and the methods. The moderate continue to believe in the steady reforms in the existing system, while extremely wanted to extend the Swadeshi and boycott movement to the rest of the country. The split was temporarily averted in Calcutta session 1906, when the grand old man of Indian politics, Dadabhai Naoroji, was chosen as the president. He openly declared Swaraj to be the goal of the Indian national movement. Congress split in the stormy session at Surat in 1907. Now I will tell you who were the moderates. Moderates were the intellectual persons, literate or educated persons like Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Moderates were such groups. A moderate was the group in which they were thinking that we have to got our independence through the intellectuality and loyalty, and without the armed use, without arms and without the bloodshed. While the extremists were the activists who wanted a revolutionary path to gain independence. They not in the favor of the use of the arm, means they can use armed when it was needed. Clear? Next, Swadeshi and boycott movement have done a government policy of the preparations and reforms. The government first followed the policy of suppression of nationalist movement. It tried to crush the radicals by force. In May 1907, Lala Lajpat Rai, Ajit Singh were deported to Mandalay, means Burma, without trial. Bipin Chandra Pal was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment. Tilak was sentenced to 6 years rigorously imprisonment for writing an article in the Kesari. It was introduced some constitutional reforms, passing some laws by the government under the Government of India Act 1909, also called Morley-Minto reforms. But these Morley-Minto reforms failed to satisfy the aspirations of the Indians. The provisions of separate electorate. Minto-Morley reforms 1909 provided a forced separate electorate to the Muslims. It was not done keeping the welfare of the Muslims in the mind, but to divide the two major communities, the Hindus and the Muslims, to weaken the national movement. The formation of Muslim League. In 1906, the Muslim League was formed. The lead in its formation was taken by Aga Khan and Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka. They encouraged by the Viceroy Minto. The Muslim masses were drawn into the nationalist movement by the Indians through some attempts, because then Muslim felt for the British government waging war against the Sultan of Turkey, who was regarded as Khalifa of the Muslim world. The revolutionary movement for the Indian independence. In Mumbai, two prominent Muslim leaders, Maulana Muhammad Ali and Abul Kalam Azad, carried a nationalist propaganda and brought the Indians under the struggle for freedom. The revolutionary groups were concentrated in Maharashtra, Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, etc. More groups were scattered around the country. Nationalists and the First World War. In June 1914, the First World War broke out between the Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, and USSR on one side, and in the second side, the Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey were. In India, the year of war marked the maturing of nationalism in the beginning, and in the Indian national leaders, including Lokmanya Tilak, who had been released in June 1914, decided to support the war effort of the government in mistaken belief that the Great Britain would repair India's loyalty with the gratitude and enable India to take a long step forward on the road to self-government. But they forget that they were fighting for the safeguard of their existing colonies. Now, Home Rule Movement and the Lucknow Session. On April 28, 1916, Home Rule League was set up with its headquarters at Pune. Annie Besant, an Irish lady who was a member of the Theosophical Society of India, played a key role in this movement. The 31st session of the Congress, which was held at Lucknow in 1960s, was a historical day. It was presided over by the Ambika Charan Mazumdar, who was a prominent lawyer and actively associated with the Congress since its birth. After nearly 10 years of painful separation and the wandering through the wilderness of the misunderstandings, the brothers had at the first met brothers in this session. Lucknow Session. In the Lucknow Session, the Congress and the Muslim League came closer to each other, and they signed the historic Lucknow Pact. This session of 1916 cemented the friendship between the Congress and the Muslim League and promoted the goodwill between the Hindus and the Muslims. Thank you. Have a nice day, student.